Being a twin used to mean having a built-in best friend, someone who finished your sentences, shared your secrets, and stood by your side no matter what. That's what I thought I had with Sarah. Until she took everything from me, or at least tried to. I'm Emma Chen, 32, Chief Technology Officer at SecureNet Solutions. While most people see a successful executive who worked her way up from junior developer to the C-suite by age 30, my twin sister only saw someone to compete with, to beat, to break. Another late night M. Sarah's voice dripped with fake concern as she perched on the edge of my desk one evening. I was reviewing security protocols for a major client, the kind of contract that could make or break our company's reputation. Some of us have actual responsibilities, I replied without looking up. Not everyone can coast by on their looks and charm. Ouch. Sarah laughed, running her fingers through her perfectly styled hair, identical to mine in color but cut in a trendy bob, while I kept mine in a practical ponytail. Is that why David left you? Because you're all work and no play. The mention of David made my fingers freeze over the keyboard. My ex-fiancé was still a raw wound, even 6 months after I caught him cheating. Don't you have somewhere to be? A party to attend? Someone else's life to ruin? Actually, Sarah's smile widened and something in her tone made me finally look up. She was wearing a new dress, expensive by the look of it, and there was something else, a diamond ring glinting on her left hand. I'm getting married, to David. The world tilted sideways. What? We've been seeing each other for a while now. She examined her manicure casually, as if she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb on my life. He needs someone who understands the importance of living, not just existing. Someone who won't put a career before love. I stared at my twin sister, this person who shared my DNA but apparently none of my moral compass. You've been seeing my ex-fiancé, the man who cheated on me? Oh please. Sarah rolled her eyes. He only cheated because you were never there. Always at the office, always on your laptop. When was the last time you went on a real date? Had fun? Lived? Get out. My voice was deadly quiet. The wedding's in 2 months. She stood smoothing her dress. You should come. Show everyone you're not bitter about losing the love of your life to your own twin. Unless you're too busy working, of course. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring at nothing. Sarah and David, my twin sister and my ex-fiancé. The betrayal was so complete, so perfectly designed to hurt me, that it had to have been planned. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and sleepless nights. I threw myself into projects, saying later and later at the office. My assistant, Mia, started leaving cups of green tea on my desk without being asked, worry evident in her eyes. Ms. Chen, she ventured one evening around 9 p.m. Your sister's wedding invitation arrived. I looked at the cream-colored envelope like it might bite me. Throw it away. There's something else. Mia hesitated. The company's security team flagged some unusual activity. Someone's been trying to access our client databases using your credentials. That got my attention. What? When? Multiple attempts over the past month. They were sophisticated enough to almost slip past our firewalls. I pulled up the security logs, my mind racing. As CTO, I had access to everything: client data, financial records, trade secrets. A breach using my credentials could be catastrophic. Show me the timestamps of the attempts. As Mia read them off, a pattern emerged. The attempts coincided with times I'd been out of the office, at lunch meetings, doctor's appointments, even my weekly therapy sessions. Times that someone close to me would know about. Pull up the building's security camera footage for those dates, I ordered, a sick feeling growing in my stomach. The first video showed Sarah entering the building, signing in as my twin for a surprise lunch visit. She waited until I left for my appointment, then slipped into my office. The second video showed her doing the same thing a week later. She's been trying to steal client data, I whispered. But why? The answer came 2 days later when I overheard 2 board members discussing a new tech startup that was aggressively courting our biggest clients. A startup founded by none other than David Anderson, my ex-fiancé. The pieces clicked into place. Sarah and David hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They were trying to destroy my career too. They must have figured my sister could use our identical appearance to access my office, steal client information, and help David's company poach our biggest accounts. I should have been angry. Instead, I felt oddly calm. For the first time in months, my mind was crystal clear. Mia, I called. Cancel my appointments for the next week and get me everything you can find on David's new company. Are you going to report the security breach? I thought about Sarah's smug smile, about David's betrayal, about their upcoming wedding. Not yet, I said, opening my laptop. First, I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to work. Over the next week, I barely left my office. I dug through financial records, traced IP addresses, and followed digital breadcrumbs. What I found was better than I could have imagined. David's startup wasn't just trying to steal our clients, it was built on stolen technology. He'd been planning this even before our breakup, copying proprietary code and client lists. Sarah's attempts to access my computer weren't the beginning of their scheme. They were just the latest chapter. I documented everything meticulously, every stolen line of code, every unauthorized access attempt, every fraudulent business dealing. I set up a secure server to store the evidence, knowing I'd need it soon. The wedding invitation sat unopened on my desk, a daily reminder of their betrayal. Finally, 1 week before the ceremony, I opened it. You were cordially invited to celebrate the marriage of Sarah Chin and David Anderson. The words made my stomach turn, but I forced myself to RSVP. Yes, I would attend. Yes, I would watch my twin sister marry my ex-fiancé. And yes, I would bring my laptop. The morning of the wedding, I dressed carefully in a deep blue gown that Sarah had specifically asked guests not to wear. She'd chosen pale pink as her theme color. My makeup was flawless, my hair styled in elegant waves. I looked exactly like my twin, except for the steel in my eyes. Are you sure about this? Maya asked as she helped me pack my computer bag. She'd become more than an assistant over the past months. She was the closest thing I had to a friend. They chose the wrong person to underestimate, I replied, checking that all my files were in order. Sarah thinks being a workaholic is my weakness. She's about to learn it's my strength. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Grand Plaza Hotel. I'd arrived early, telling the wedding coordinator I was the bride's twin and needed to set up a special presentation. She was delighted by the idea, helping me connect my laptop to the venue's main display system. As guests began arriving, I sat quietly in the back, watching. Our parents, beaming with pride. Sarah's friends, all dressed in approved shades of pink. Business associates who had no idea they were celebrating a union built on fraud. Sarah looked beautiful walking down the aisle, of course. We shared the same features, but she'd always known how to shine in the spotlight. David waited at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, looking at my twin the way he used to look at me. I let them have their perfect ceremony, let them exchange vows and rings, let them kiss as the crowd applauded. It was during the reception, after their first dance, that I made my move. Excuse me, everyone, I said, standing and tapping my glass. As the bride's twin sister, I'd like to make a special presentation. Sarah's face showed a flicker of confusion. This wasn't part of her carefully planned schedule. But she couldn't object without seeming ungracious, so she smiled and pulled David close. To my dear sister and her new husband, I continued, pressing a button on my laptop. Let me show you what true dedication looks like. The venue's screens flickered to life, and the real show began. The first image that filled the screens was security footage from my office. There was Sarah, dressed to look exactly like me, slipping behind my desk while I was at lunch. The timestamp was clearly visible in the corner. Oh, how sweet, someone in the audience cooed. Home videos of the twins. But the next footage wasn't sweet at all. It showed Sarah attempting to access my computer, frustration clear on her face as she failed to break through our security protocols. The camera angle perfectly captured her inserting a USB drive, the kind used for stealing data. What is this? Sarah's voice was sharp, her perfect bride's smile cracking at the edges. David's hand tightened on her waist. Just documenting memories, sis. I clicked to the next slide. Like this one. Remember when David's new company mysteriously gained access to SecureNet's proprietary code? The same code he helped develop while working for us. The screen filled with side-by-side comparisons. SecureNet's original programming on the left. David's startup's suspiciously identical code on the right. Even non-tech people in the audience could see they matched. I must stop this. David stepped forward, his face flushed. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I pulled up the next document, financial records showing transfers from David's company to offshore accounts. Because I think the embarrassing part is how you thought you could steal from SecureNet and get away with it. Or maybe it's how you used my own twin sister to try to access our client data. The wedding guests were starting to murmur. I saw our parents exchanging worried looks, Sarah's friends shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The wedding coordinator was frantically whispering into her headset. "This is ridiculous," Sarah laughed, but it sounded forced. "Emma's just jealous. She always has been. She can't stand that I'm happy, that I found love." "Love?" I interrupted. "Is that what you call corporate espionage these days?" "Because I have proof that you and David have been planning this for months, even before our engagement ended." More documents flashed across the screen. Emails between Sarah and David dating back to when he and I were still together, discussing company secrets and planning their scheme. The timestamp on one particularly damning email was from 2 days before I caught David cheating. "You see," I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. "While you two were busy betraying me, I was busy doing what I do best. Working. Investigating. Building an airtight case." "Security," David shouted. "Shut this down now." But the hotel security guards didn't move. Instead, 2 men in suits entered the reception hall, badges visible on their belts. "Actually," I smiled, "these gentlemen from the FBI's Cybercrimes Division would like to see the rest of my presentation. I've been cooperating with them for weeks." The color drained from David's face. Sarah swayed slightly, her bouquet slipping from her fingers to scatter pink roses across the floor. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I'm your sister, your twin. You stopped being my sister the moment you chose to help him steal from my company." I turned to address the shocked wedding guests. "I apologize for disrupting this beautiful celebration of love and trust, but I thought everyone should know exactly what kind of people they're celebrating. This is nothing but lies." David's lawyer mask finally cracked, showing the desperation beneath. "You have no proof." Actually, one of the FBI agents stepped forward. "We have all the proof we need. Mr. Anderson, Ms. Chen, I'm afraid you'll need to come with us." What happened next was chaos. Sarah screamed that I was ruining her life, again. David tried to make a run for it, but was quickly caught. Our mother fainted. Our father couldn't stop asking, "Why? Why would you do this?" though it wasn't clear which twin he was addressing. As the agents led the happy couple away, still in their wedding finery, I packed up my laptop calmly. All around me, guests were grabbing their purses and phones, eager to escape the scandal. I'm sure the videos were already hitting social media. "Ms. Chen." It was Mia, appearing at my elbow with my coat. "Your car's waiting outside." I nodded, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through my presentation was fading, leaving behind a hollow ache where my anger had been. "You did the right thing," Mia said quietly as we walked out. "They were going to destroy the company. All those people would have lost their jobs." I know, and I did know. That's what had given me the strength to go through with it. This wasn't just about my personal betrayal. Sarah and David's scheme would have affected hundreds of employees, countless clients. Doesn't make it feel any better, though. "Emma, wait." I turned to see our father hurrying after us, his face aged 10 years in the past hour. "How could you?" he demanded. "Your own sister." "How could I?" I cut him off. "How could she? How could you all be so blind?" Sarah and David weren't just hurting me, they were committing federal crimes. They were going to destroy people's livelihoods. But to humiliate her at her own wedding. The wedding was a sham, Dad. Just like their relationship. Just like every time Sarah pretended to care about anyone but herself. I was surprised to find tears in my eyes. I gave her a chance to stop. I waited, hoping she'd realize what she was doing. But she just kept pushing, kept taking, kept trying to destroy everything I'd worked for. My father stood there, mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. "I have to go," I said. "The FBI will need my official statement. You should probably find a good lawyer for Sarah. She's going to need one." As Mia drove me to the FBI field office, my phone exploded with notifications. The story was already breaking. Twin sister exposes corporate espionage at wedding. Securities fraud uncovered during wedding toast. Bride and groom arrested at reception. "Do you want me to mute your notifications?" Mia offered. "No, I watched the headlines roll in. Let them come. I'm done hiding from the truth. The truth was that my twin sister had never been the person I thought she was. The truth was that love, familial or romantic, couldn't be built on lies and betrayal. The truth was that sometimes the hardest worker in the room was exactly who you should fear most. Where to after the FBI? Maya asked. I thought about my empty apartment, about the family photos I'd have to take down, about the long nights ahead trying to rebuild my company's security and reputation. The office, I said. There's work to be done. After all, that's what I did best. And this time, I wouldn't apologize for it. The media circus that followed the wedding was exactly what I've been trying to avoid my entire career. Twin tech exec takes down sister's wedding, screamed one headline. Silicon Valley's sister act turned sinister, proclaimed another. My PR team was working overtime, trying to control the narrative, but the story was too juicy for the press to ignore. 2 weeks after the wedding turned arrest, I sat in my office reviewing the damage. SecureNet's stock had initially dipped when news of the attempted corporate espionage broke, but it was already recovering. Our clients, rather than being scared off by the scandal, were impressed by how quickly we'd identified and neutralized the threat. Ms. Chen, Mia appeared at my door. The board wants to move up the emergency meeting to this afternoon. And your mother's in the lobby again. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Tell security to escort her out. I know. Mia hesitated. She's crying this time. She's been crying for 2 weeks. I turned back to my computer. Sarah's facing federal charges, and somehow I'm still the bad guy. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for next month. The evidence against Sarah and David was overwhelming. Not just my carefully documented proof, but additional information the FBI had uncovered during their investigation. David's startup had been stealing from other companies too, using Sarah's charm and connections to gain access where he couldn't. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Please, Emma. Just talk to me. I'm your mother. Delete. Block. Another number to add to the growing list. The board meeting that afternoon was tense but productive. Our legal team presented their analysis of the situation, confirming that SecureNet's intellectual property was secure and our liability was minimal. The board members were particularly interested in the new security protocols I'd implemented after discovering Sarah's breach attempts. Out of crisis comes opportunity, our CEO concluded. Ms. Chen's handling of this situation has proven that our security systems are robust and our leadership is proactive. I'm recommending a full vote of confidence. The vote was unanimous. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. Back in my office, I found an email from Sarah's lawyer. They wanted to make a deal. She'd testify against David in exchange for a lighter sentence. The lawyer suggested that, as her sister, I might want to speak to the prosecutor on her behalf. I deleted the email without responding. You've got dinner with the Thompson Tech team at 7. Mia reminded me. Should I push it back? No. I stood gathering my things. I need to get out of this office, maybe talk to some people who aren't involved in this mess. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where deals were made over perfectly cooked steaks and $500 bottles of wine. I arrived early, checking my reflection in the window. I looked polished, professional, exactly the image I needed to project. No one would guess I hadn't slept properly in weeks. Emma Chen. I turned to see a man approaching, tall, with kind eyes and an expensive suit. Not one of the Thompson Tech executives I was expecting. I'm Marcus Rivera, he said, extending his hand. I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I've been hoping to speak with you. Mr. Rivera. I recognized the name. He was a senior partner at one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious law firms. I already have legal representation, thank you. He smiled. I'm not here about legal services, I'm here about your sister. My grip tightened on my purse. Then we have nothing to discuss. Please, he said quickly, just hear me out. Sarah was my firm's client before. All this, she's not who you think she is. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. She's exactly who I think she is. I have the evidence to prove it. She was working with us. Marcus lowered his voice. As an informant, David's company wasn't their first target. They've been running this scheme for years, targeting multiple tech firms. Sarah came to us 6 months ago, wanting to stop him but afraid he'd destroy her if she did. I stared at him, my mind racing. That's impossible. She was helping him. She was gathering evidence, playing along to document everything. He pulled out a business card. The FBI knows, it's why they're offering her the deal. She chose to help bring him down, even though she knew it would cost her everything, including you. The ground seemed to shift under my feet. Why didn't she tell me? Would you have believed her? Marcus asked gently. After everything with David, would you have trusted her? No, I realize. I wouldn't have. I've been so convinced of her betrayal, so hurt by her apparent actions, that I wouldn't have listened. Think about it, Marcus said, pressing the card into my hand. She's still your sister. Your twin. Maybe there's more to this story than you know. He left me standing there, my carefully constructed narrative crumbling around me. The Thompson Tech executives arrived moments later, full of enthusiasm about potential contracts, but I barely heard them. After dinner, I sat in my car, staring at Marcus's card. If what he said was true, if Sarah had been trying to stop David all along. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I'd blocked so many times. Emma, my mother's voice was thick with tears. Is it really you? Mom, I said, my own eyes welling up. We need to talk about Sarah. Sometimes the hardest part of being right is realizing you might have been wrong all along. The prison visiting room was colder than I expected. Sarah sat across from me, wearing a standard-issue jumpsuit instead of her usual designer clothes. Despite everything, seeing her behind glass made my heart ache. I thought you'd never come, she said quietly. We hadn't spoken since the wedding 3 months ago. I thought you'd never tell me the truth. I pressed my hand against the glass. Why didn't you come to me first, before going to the law firm, before playing along with David's scheme? Sarah's laugh was bitter. You wouldn't have believed me. You were so hurt by what David did, so convinced that I was just the selfish twin who'd stolen your fiancé. She shook her head. Besides, he was dangerous. The more I discovered about his operations, the more scared I became. He'd ruined other people who crossed him. So you protected me by letting me hate you. I protected you by keeping you out of it. Sarah met my eyes, the same eyes I saw in the mirror every morning. If David had suspected you knew anything, he would have destroyed SecureNet completely. This way, you were clean. Your reputation was safe. Until I blew it all up at your wedding. Yeah, she smiled slightly. That wasn't part of the plan. But maybe it worked out better this way. Faster, at least. The evidence Sarah had gathered was damning. David hadn't just been stealing from tech companies, he'd been selling secrets to competitors, manipulating stocks, and running a sophisticated fraud operation that spanned several years. The FBI estimated he'd stolen over $50 million. The prosecutor says with your testimony, David's looking at 15 to 20 years, I said. Your deal will probably mean probation, maybe a few months of house arrest. I deserve worse. Sarah's voice cracked. I hurt you. Even if it was for the right reasons, I hurt my own twin sister. We hurt each other. I thought about all the times I dismissed her, judged her, assumed the worst. I'm sorry too. A guard announced visiting hours were ending. Sarah stood, pressing her hand against the glass where mine still rested. Partners? She asked, just like we used to do when we were kids, taking on the world together. Partners, I whispered. The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, press releases, and rebuilding. David went to trial, was convicted, and disappeared into the federal prison system. Sarah served 2 months of house arrest, then started working with a cybersecurity consulting firm, using her experience to help other companies protect themselves. SecureNet not only survived the scandal but thrived. Our security protocols became the industry standard, and my reputation shifted from workaholic exec to vigilant protector of corporate interests. The board even fast-tracked my promotion to CEO. But the real work was personal, not professional. Ready for this? Sarah asked, standing beside me at our parents' front door. It was Thanksgiving, our first family dinner since the wedding. No, I admitted. But when has that ever stopped us? Mom opened the door, tears already in her eyes. My girls, she said, pulling us both into a hug. Both of you together. Dad was in the kitchen, burning the turkey like he did every year. The familiar smell of slightly charred stuffing filled the house. Some things never change. I have something for you, Sarah said later, as we did dishes together. just like when we were teenagers. She pulled out a small box. Inside was a silver pendant, split down the middle. One half had an E, the other an S. Really? A split heart necklace. What are we, 12? But I was smiling as I said it. Sometimes the cheesy stuff matters most. Sarah helped me fasten my half around my neck. Besides, we got decades of sisterhood to make up for. That night, after pie and coffee, after Mom had shown us embarrassing baby photos for the 100th time, after Dad had fallen asleep in his recliner, Sarah and I sat on the back porch like we used to. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't exposed everything at your wedding? I asked. Sometimes. Sarah touched her half of the necklace. But I think we needed that explosion. We needed everything to break so we could build it back stronger. I looked at my twin, my mirror image, my oldest friend, my newest ally, and realized she was right. Sometimes the hardest paths lead us exactly where we need to go. Partners? I held out my hand. Sarah took it, squeezing tight. Partners. Always. We sat there until the stars came out, two halves of the same whole, finally complete again.